Hi, everybody.
Hi, Walker. I'm Chan from India.
Chand is in South India. Tell us again the name of your
Yeah,
place.
the place is Vizag. V-I-Z-A-G.
Isaac,
V-I-Z-A-G.
Isaac.
Vizag.
How do you pronounce it?
Vizag.
Isaac.
Yes,
Hi.
that's correct.
Okay.
But I have trouble with German too. And although I think you're in Darmstadt, is it, Volker?
I'm here in Darmstadt, yes.
Yeah. Well, is it really hot in Europe?
No, it's quite comfortable. It's okay.
Is it?
Not too
Yeah.
hot. But we had lots of problems here in Germany in the last 2 weeks.
You had floods, right? And
Yes, several hundreds of dead people. Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
very bad.
like in Bangladesh, flooding everywhere. Yeah, it's a climate change, climate catastrophe. It's extreme weather, and now we are in the middle of the.
here's Claire Adamson in Montreal. And we have David Miller, who's also in Montreal, right? Hello, David.
Hello.
And we have somebody coming in from Kenya. Hello, Davidson.
Okay, hello.
Yeah, here comes Valerie. Hello, Valerie. And here comes Charles Schauber, who's in Vukovar, Croatia, right?
That's right.
Yeah. How are you doing these days, Charles?
Well, we're doing a lot of work.
We should explain to people that you are a psychotherapist doing work with people from who've experienced war trauma.
Mhm.
And I suppose that Joseph Simpaye is doing work with people who have other kinds of traumas.
There have been a lot of wars there, and they get into a lot of, there have been genocides there, basically. There and in Rwanda and right across the border in the Congo. And so they're getting refugees from the Congo, they're getting people from within the country, they're getting people from Rwanda. So it's pretty bad stuff.
When you say the genocide, you're talking about the Rwandan genocide, or is it?
Right, but there have been other genocides there too,
Really?
which haven't been so publicized.
Anything since that big one?
Yep,
Really?
couple small ones, yes.
Oh.
And also in Congo, it's pretty bad. They're talking about abandoning children in the forests, and how do you deal with that? That kind of
dear.
stuff.
Oh dear.
It's tragic and it's very difficult.
Oh.
And now somebody also, whom we've been working with in the Congo for, I guess, about a year, wants to start up a project with reintegrating former child soldiers. So we're trying to work with him on that. And I've just started 2 weeks ago groups with, would you believe, the diaspora of Uyghurs who are now in Australia. Who have now
Really?
gone to Australia. We now have 2 groups of them.
Oh, that's
So-
the work of the Lord. You are doing just such important things. Now,
We're
Valerie,
trying.
I was greeting Valerie before you arrived.
Sorry.
And I want to get back to Valerie before she vanishes again. Hello, Valerie.
I'm in Cape Town at the moment. I stay in Johannesburg, South Africa. You get to see my place when I'm back home in Johannesburg. So I'm in Cape Town. So I'm actually looking at the sea, we looking at the sea and I have a mountain behind me. So yeah, I'm in a beautiful place at the moment. I thank God.
All right. So what do? You live in
So
Johannesburg.
I have just just started having interest about about the world and how we can save the planet. And I know when you see how polluted the world is, it just appears like whatever you do, it's like a drop in the ocean. But I mean, we all have to start somewhere. If we all start somewhere, then something good can come out of it. So myself, I'm just looking at how we throw away our trash, where we just throw away everything in one thing. Yet we could actually have plastics on their own. Some of them are recyclables and all that. And that's the area I really want to work on, conscientize people. So even the trash company, if I may call it that, actually give them the special bins. This one is for glass, this one is for this one is so they know. But so that's where Meta I am, and I need a lot of assistance on how I can do that. But that is really where I'm thinking I can do my part.
Mm-hmm. No. You know, the city of San Francisco is going to buy some new trash cans for the streets. And they showed 3 different models, and they're choosing between these 3 different models, which, you know, look like nice looking trash cans if you like trash cans, you know. But you know what they want for them? $20,000 a piece for a trash can. And they say when they buy them when they choose which one they want, and they buy them in quantity, they'll come down to about $2,500 a piece. I can't imagine it, you know. And they're complaining that this is an outrageous price to pay, which I quite agree. But it's not even the kind of qualitative differential that you're proposing, where you'd have one bin for the glass and one bin for the plastic and things like that. No, it's just an ordinary looking thing that you could dump things in. Joe Hayward Haynes, right?
That's me, yes.
Yeah, sure. So where are you, Joe?
I am in Ennismore, outside of Peterborough.
Our part of Canada got off real easy, you know, compared to some of the people already here who are you know, people in Germany got flooded, and people in Western Canada have been under this heat dome.
Oh my God, I know.
I don't know. Well, what
fires
about
everywhere? Fires to the north of us.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
In Northern Ontario, Northwestern Ontario, yeah.
Davidson, how's everything in Kenya? Are you suffering from heat or not?
We are facing some kind of drought where our crops are not doing very well. Yeah. So this year and probably next year, we're not going to have sufficient supply of food, because our rainfall this year has been very minimal. That's the major challenge we are facing in Kenya.
You're worried about next year's supply of food, is that right?
Yes, right.
Oh boy. Well, I was just talking to a climatologist this week who is predicting that within 10 years, we're going to have famine on a big scale from the climate change. And certainly we haven't, I mean, climate, you know, we have a few famines going on now, but they're not caused by the climate. So far, the real famines are being caused by people trying to starve each other on purpose, you know, as part of a war. Like in Yemen, the Saudis are trying to starve the Yemeni people, that they're enemies. Well,
I wonder if we could quickly hear from some of the other people in Africa, because of course our news bulletins from Africa and from India are pretty thin.
That's true. Yes, Valerie, bring us up to date, I guess, politically too, not just about the weather, but.
Well, you know, we had this, you know, this unrest that took place about 2 weeks ago, where the former president Zuma was arrested. You know the whole story. And
no, I don't know the whole story. I keep seeing references to things that I'm supposed to know, but I think I don't know. So maybe you better fill us all in.
Okay, so former President Zuma, okay, it is alleged that there was a lot of corruption during his time. So a commission was set up to look into that. And he is trying to dodge going to speak to this commission. So it ended up getting to a stage where he had to be arrested for not, attending, the courts at the commission. So then he was arrested. So his supporters were not happy. So what they did, some of them were his supporters that were protesting that he must be released from prison. But then some took advantage and they started looting. But we are also told that there are people who support him who actually started this sort of instigated people to start looting because they wanted the country to become unruly, just to say, because you have jailed our former president. So this thing, it was said, people were just running into shops. I don't know if you saw it on news. People were running into shops, taking what they want. Shops were cleaned up. They would just take what they want. The police could not even stop them because they were overwhelmed. The numbers were just too many. And also, the police could not even use force or anything because they were scared that people might die. But surprisingly, even without the police doing anything, about 300 people died. So I don't know whether it's from the stampede or whatever happens. Now this story is also spilling into blacks versus Indians, because they are saying that some Indians might have also used the opportunity to shoot at some black people. So in this particular area called Durban, we call it the KZN, KwaZulu-Natal province. That is Durban, for those that know where Durban is. So that place, there is a lot of Indians there. So that's where also a lot of people died. So it's being alleged that the Indians were also now shooting at some black. So it's becoming like a racial issue at the same time. So there's just a lot broiling up. But it's been quite a very sad thing that has just happened in South Africa. It's really sad.
Well, now I didn't know. First of all, I didn't know that Zuma was in prison. What had
he is in prison as we speak.
When was he sent to prison?
I think he's there for 2 weeks now, because he was sentenced for 15 months in prison.
So he's already had the trial.
No, this wasn't a trial. Oh. You know, he was put, because this was the Constitutional Court. I think that's the highest court. I know we call these courts differently wherever country we are. They gave him 15 months for refusing to appear at the commission, where he was supposed to go and be asked questions about the corruption and all that. So he was told to come and he refused, and then the case was taken to the Concord, and then they sentenced him for 15 months in prison just for that reason. So he hasn't been through trial. In fact, his other case of corruption, which involved I don't know, I can't remember. I think it was which happened some many years ago, to do with buying of the guns and stuff like that. It's about to start. That one is about to start. He's got so many cases that he's facing, this man. You know, this guy was just so corrupt. So there's so much. But for now, he's serving 15 months for refusing to appear at the commission.
Okay.
So he's been in.
Who is your prime minister now, or his president, whatever?
Our president it's Cyril Ramaphosa.
Ramaphosa. Oh, I got the impression when maybe he's a better guy. Is that? He
is a better guy. He is, in fact, he's the best guy we have at the moment. But now the Zuma people are saying he is a yes man to white people. You know, they are using that so that he's not liked, because they are out of power. So they are saying, no, this guy is a yes man to white people, to white monopoly capital, you know, those kind of things, that kind of, that's what they're saying. But to be honest, he is the best guy we have at the moment.
Okay. Now, in the past, I wonder about this tension between Indians and blacks. And is how much racial animosity is there? Is there a lot of trouble normally, or is this something new where you're getting intergroup conflict?
Well, lately I've got to learn that it's been there. It's just been broiling underneath there. They know about it. So every opportunity they get, they attack each other somehow. So it has always just been there. So, but now I think it was really exposed. It came out. It really came out in such a bad way. But we thank God that things are quiet at the moment. But now, out of these 300 who died, there will be an investigation that how did they die? They can't all have died from the stampede, from the looters that were looting shops. So it's understood some were shot. So if it's not the police who shot at them, who then shot them? So those investigations are taking place. So the vaccine is really going on. I think I learned on the news recently that I think about 6 million, by the way, 6 million vaccines have been administered. I'm sitting here, I got my first jab, so I'm waiting for the 42 days for my next jab. You wait for such a long time. So I got my first jab last week. So yes, they are really pushing it, but there are people who are also not for the vaccine. I think this is in all over many countries. You also have people that are skeptical about the vaccine, who are saying they're not trusting what is this really? It wasn't given enough time to study it and all that. But I was just saying, I'm happy with what my medical insurance did for us, because they actually made it very easy for me to go and get a vaccine, and they were sending me messages reminding me of my appointment. And I was just saying, we also pay a lot of money to them. I mean, it's time they also do something good for us.
Listen, tell us about Kenya. Now, what's the situation with COVID in Kenya?
Yeah, we have we are experiencing the third wave, which is a strain that is attributed to India. About 3 months ago, there was a plane that was allowed to come in from India, and business people from India came in. That's how the Indian strain is now spreading here. As we speak, my part of the country, in the western part of the country, my area where I am is in the western part of the country, very close to the Kenya-Uganda with the border. We are under lockdown. About four counties in this region of the country, we are under lockdown because this strain and the Indian strain is so rampant in this area. As far as vaccination is concerned, the vaccines are not sufficient because our population is we have a huge population. The vaccines that were brought in were very minimal. That could not cater for everyone. There were only the ones who are earmarked were only medical. They're called frontline medical staff. They're the ones who were earmarked and received the first vaccination. And the rest of the masses, we are waiting. And as we speak, the country is not getting enough supply.
Okay.
Schools are set to reopen tomorrow, and the school calendar has been adversely affected because we have had several abrupt closures. When the pandemic spikes, so the president shuts down the country, locks down the country, and we have to wait for another a month or 2 months or 3 months. So tomorrow, normally our school calendar begins in January, but this time the school calendar, the year is beginning in July, end of July, tomorrow, the 26th. That's when students are beginning the next grades. So there's been that interruption of learning under school here in Kenya.
There were last year there were a lot of reports about Kenya, Somalia, Ethiopia on the locust situation, and I haven't heard anything recently about that. I was wondering if you know anything about what has happened and what is happening in the Horn of Africa and in East Africa with that, because it seemed to be a very, very serious problem.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. That is a valid question. Actually, last year and the early part of this year, there was a lot of invasion of locusts, and most of them came from the Indian Ocean and from Somalia. And that's the northern part of the country. Yes. So the government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, tried to fight the locusts very much by all means, both by using chemicals and whatever other means. And also they also used villagers to beat drums to scare them away from the trees. So as we speak, it's no longer a threat. They are put under control. So at the moment, we do not have incidents of locust invasion in Kenya.
Locusts.
Yeah.
Thank you, Davidson, because I hadn't heard the follow-up on it. And
my question is, why don't you catch all those locusts and eat them?
Oh, what a good idea. I saw a chocolate dipped locust once.
Absolutely.
They dipped it in chocolate, and I don't remember. I don't think I tasted it, to be honest.
look on the BBC, Claire. You'll find something on it. There was a whole program on, I think it was on the program called People Fixing the World. And they had a whole thing about eating insects. So you might want to try and look it up. Apparently it's very high protein and very good. So, and their chefs doing it.
Is it good or not? I accidentally ate a worm once, or bit of it, had a mouthful of worm once, and it was not good. I can report to you, you do not want to eat worms.
Apparently, there are chefs specializing in this now, in cooking insects. This is what the BBC says.
Really?
I mean,
Okay.
if you ate a fish without bothering to scale it, you probably wouldn't like it much either. But there are people who have specialized in this. One of the things that apparently has caught on as pet food is the larvae of common flies. I think they're soldier flies, but it does not matter. The point being that larvae have an extremely high protein content and fat content, so it's high energy food. So cats and dogs are eating it quite cheerfully. It's only if human beings take it on that might perhaps catch on, but I think it might take a generation or two.
This is a good use for garbage because, insects will dispose of the garbage for you, eat it, and then you can eat the insects. But I haven't tried that yet.
Could we hear from Dr. Chand? He hasn't had a chance to talk.
Practically, if you are seeing that the number of cases, what we are hearing, even from our neighborhood and all, have come down quite a bit had come down. So that's a good sign. Nevertheless, but we have torrential rains and floods in Bombay and Delhi, where I really feel that across the globe, if you have seen, China has torrential rains and heavy floods, as you know, in China in this present week. And there was also the highest temperature recorded at 54.4 degrees centigrade, which is atrocious. 54.4 degrees centigrade is the highest temperature ever recorded in US, and they say once in something like 1,000 years, the floods and the temperature rise, these all things are giving very scary feeling for all across the globe. All these things are really making us feel quite jittery. So it's time for us to really wake up and try to do our bit. All of us should plant trees so that there can be more oxygen on this planet. Second thing is not using plastic. Plastic should be condemned as much as possible. And third thing is red meat eating habit should be reduced. Red meat eating is one of the things which is creating more ecological imbalance, and we are losing flora, fauna, and global warming up.
I will be doing a talk show this week with a professor in Davis, California, who's an expert on the emissions of gases and the cycling of gases through cows. So wait until next week or later in the week, and you'll be able to see a very, what I will predict is going to be a controversial conversation about that.
Please invite me, Meta. I would like to participate.
Well, you'll be able to watch it when later in the week.
Friday the 30th.
Right.
At 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's with Frank Mitloehner.
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 Can you put in the chat box, please, so that we can have it in the chat box?
Okay. We have some newcomers. Some of my dear friends are with us. Barbara Burkett, Erica Simpson, and Rose Dyson have arrived. Hello, folks. Erica, you came first, so you get to say hi to everybody. Greetings, Erica.
Hi, Meta. It seems like I just saw you 2 weeks ago, but anyway, I was in BC with wildfires, but we were actually on a sailing boat. And my brother is running for the Green Party, everyone. So I learned a lot about how to set up a Green Party campaign. I'm nonpartisan, but we talked to Elizabeth May for a couple hours on Zoom. And also we're very involved. My brother is very involved. It's a winnable riding. So we're running against Avi Lewis, the NDP. And David Suzuki has been phoning the Green Party list, everyone on the Green Party, and saying, give us your vote, the NDP the vote. Give the NDP the vote for this election. He did the same thing in London North when Elizabeth May was running here. He asked everyone to give the Liberals the vote. So I am not happy with Dr. David Suzuki, but we can't do anything about it because you're allowed to lobby, even though he's the head of a nonprofit. You're allowed to lobby like that. And so it puts us in the sad situation where the Green Party was likely to win. And now with Suzuki pushing everyone to vote for Abby Lewis, the Greens and the NDP will lose and the Liberal will win if there's an election. And now I'm hearing that there won't possibly be an election because the Delta variant. And so the election will be in October 2 years hence. And so that
2 years, 2 years hence?
I can't remember what the exact date is. I believe it's, someone will know here, October 21st, 2023, 2 years hence, Meta.
Why?
So if he doesn't, because if he doesn't run on August the 7th and declare, then because of the Delta variant, then that means that we're in a 2-year campaign. Right now, we need more patience because Annamie Paul, the controversy at the higher ends of the National Council is affecting all the Green Party nominations, all of the running. It's really a travesty that we're so involved in this Israel-Palestinian issues, and yet BC wildfires are burning. My friends had to return back. They couldn't go to Calgary. They returned back to Victoria. It was so heavy, the smoke. Their beaches stink, Meta. They stink of dead algae and dead mussels because everything died because of the heat wave. It's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible situation.
What are the differences in policies between the Greens and the NDP in BC?
I believe what they're saying is Jagmeet Singh has not spoken out in the House in Hansard on the climate change issues, that he is still in favor of fossil fuel. And keep in mind that the unions are funded by the oil producing companies. So somehow the Greens are going to draw attention to this, but there's not enough time, Meta.
Mort Brussel. Hello, Mort Brussel. Welcome.
Yes.
Yeah. Who are you and where are you, sir?
I'm living in Urbana, Illinois, and I'm a retired physicist.
What do you know about climate? We've been talking about the wildfires and the other extreme events.
All the experts say that it's going to be much more probable that these events happen. So that's where we are.
I was hearing today that it's likely that this is not just an exceptional event, but it's going to be the normal, that every year we're going to have to expect this kind of thing, which I suppose will eventually sink in, and presumably people will have a reaction to it. Barbara Burkett and Rose Dyson joined us a little while ago.
Hi, everyone. I just tuned in. I am connecting via my tablet from Milford, Connecticut, where I'm visiting my daughter. I took the plunge and crossed the border, which was quite an experience. Anyway, I certainly share the concerns I heard Erica and others expressing about the urgency of addressing climate change. I'm a little out of touch on the news here, and what I'm busying myself with these days is trying to get through Mark Carney's book on values. I just finished the first 300 pages. Well, no, that's not quite right. About 150 pages, and it's I'm not sure I'll get to the end of the 500 or thus, but it's fascinating reading, I must say, on the history of the financial system and crises dating back to the Magna Carta, and now he's going to get into how we have to change the system. And as everyone here is aware, I'm sure, he's the special envoy on climate change at the UN, and is preparing a financial committee to take to COP26 in Glasgow in the fall.
Well, he certainly is very well qualified to do that kind of work. You know, he's been the head of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England both, and now I gather it's a matter of collecting money, isn't it? He's trying to get commitments from various sources to pay for some of the innovations that need to be implemented, right?
Well, his precise policies I have not yet gotten to. I've just finished reading the chapter on money changing rapidly in these transformative changes, or this period when we've got digital devices and cryptocurrencies of one kind or another. I find it interesting with these cryptocurrencies being more and more topical in the news, and why it's so important that whatever is adopted needs to come under the surveillance or governance, I suppose, of central banks. And I guess in the US, that would be the Federal Reserve.
Mm-hmm. So he's in favor of things like Bitcoin, but it has to be controlled. Is that it?
Absolutely. Well, no, he doesn't think Bitcoin much. There's something called the, oh dear, I've forgotten, a stock currency. If it's backed by a particular a substance like oil, and of course we don't like that. We don't want oil on the market at all anymore, and I don't think he does either. But whatever currency does eventually emerge, and I get the feeling that he thinks something will ultimately be adopted by the central banks, but it very much has to be controlled in that context. Otherwise, it can be very problematic. There's already plenty of evidence that these cryptocurrencies are very popular amongst terrorists and unsavory elements in our banking system.
Yes, I understand that the people who did one of these what do you call them, ransomware attacks.
That's right.
Were able to, they use Bitcoin because it can't be traced.
Yeah,
that's right.
You can't find out who's, So if they would simply, if every government would require that at least the identity of the people using the transaction should be accessible, that would make a big difference right there. I don't know what else needs to be done.
I think that's the implication of where he's going with this argument in this book, to the extent that I've read on it thus far.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Rose. We have a new visitor, Peter Burgell. Hello, Peter.
Hello. Well, I'm in Salem, Oregon.
Welcome.
And, I have a history of opposition to nuclear weapons. I was one of the 6 co-founders of the American Peace Test in the 80s, and we brought tens of thousands of people down to the Nevada test site to do direct action against nuclear weapons testing, which finally did end in 1992.
In the atmosphere, yeah.
No, underground.
Oh, okay.
They still do the so-called subcritical testing. So we weren't completely successful, but we did make at least some progress on that.
Well, you've saved millions of, well, thousands of lives, maybe 1 million lives that way, you know.
Well, hopefully that's true.
You did. I'm sure you did. Oh, right.
And so I was for about a dozen years, I was director of an organization called Oregon Peace Works. And I'm retired from that now, but I'm back into the issue of nuclear weapons because I'm very concerned about the recent direction that things are taking with regard to nuclear weapons. And I'm particularly interested in the strategic aspects of how we put together our movement, because I think we're not doing what we need to be doing in terms of movement building, and instead we're focusing on the decision makers, and I don't think that's going to be successful. So
okay,
so that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Well, you're among friends. I think everybody here probably agrees with you on about nuclear weapons, where most of us have come out of and are still very much engaged in peace movements in our various countries.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the persons who's trying to get in and seems to be losing her contacts is Barbara Burkett. Barbara, if you join us, I want to call on you because you can speak to our new visitor, Peter, who about ICANN. Barbara is a retired dermatologist, and she is very active in the, of course, you know, the physicians movement is one of the big sponsors of the ICANN project. And so, Barbara, maybe you can bring us up to date on what ICANN is up to these days and what they're planning.
Yes, they are busy, and the city's campaign is going on, and at the moment in this area, we're busy planning for August 6th, Hiroshima Nagasaki Day commemoration, and with a focus on the TPNW, and so that will be our major job in the next couple of weeks.
What is the Hiroshima Day ceremony going to be like this?
It's going to be virtual,
but
that allows a lot of people to participate who in normal years weren't able to.
Yeah. I just this week I had a conversation with somebody in Albany, New York, and in our other friend in Yorkshire, England, and they are both having ceremonies out of doors in the village square or whatever. And so apparently some people are back to meeting, but that I guess is because Britain is now open again, even though maybe they shouldn't be.
Well, when we were doing the planning, we felt that for this year, we better stick to the virtual. Mm-hmm. And we will, have some pictures of Toronto and a recording from Toronto Mayor, and as well as, some virtual and some recorded.
I noticed there was also something about a new film involving Setsuko Thurlow. What do you know about that? And will that be available for everybody or what?
Well, Setsuko is going to present some short videos about celebrations of the TPNW around the world, and have, as usual, have a few words herself. But and there will be several young speakers. So,
Mort, what are you going to be observing, if anything, this Hiroshima Day?
I do belong to a group, the American Physical Society, a subgroup, which is trying to minimize the possibility that a nuclear war will begin. Unfortunately, there are too many physicists who are intimately associated with the weapons laboratories, the corporations, the weapons corporations, etc. So it's in some sense a futile thing. But there on the margins, one can do certain things like try to emphasize a no first use kind of thing. Insofar, I think that the main trouble is wars. If wars begin between countries which have nuclear weapons, then they can escalate into something which could be, utterly catastrophic. So
there is
it's just not nuclear wars; it's wars more generally speaking, especially amongst those countries of which there are getting to be more and more who have nuclear weapons. So that's really the issue.
There is a new campaign for promoting the no first use policy. I was in on a webinar from, I guess, Switzerland a week or so ago about that. Is that part of what you're talking about, this new effort to to promote no first use?
Yes, well, this group certainly that I belong to from the American Physical Society, that's one of their main objectives. And the other thing is there are people, for example, at Los Alamos who realize that Los Alamos is getting a lot of money to make new pits, which are the essential part. And they're trying to stop that effort to make new pits. So, you know, they're working, as I say, it's on the margins there. We still have all these nuclear weapons which can be used. But
is it the...
And then we have this $1 trillion budget, which is, you know, going to be used in the next decades to upgrade our nuclear possibilities. It's just crazy, absolutely madness. But
it is. The question about the no first use policy, is this the proposal supported by the entire American Physical Society?
Oh, certainly not. No.
Just your, I see.
Just this subgroup of the American Physical Society.
Well, is it a substantial subgroup or is it a little handful of people?
Well, it's more than a handful of people. There are many physicists who understand what the problems are. And the American Physical Society is open to suggestions to the governments of the American Physical Society to try to bring this into the open more generally. So it's not a fringe group. It can be an influential group, but how influential, I can't say. But it's a vibrant issue in the American Physical Society right now.
Chand, you're there in India, and I know you go around giving talks to the Rotarians. Is there any shift, whatever, in public opinion or the government's opinion about its nuclear posture or nuclear arsenal?
The main issue is we had a discussion with some of the like-minded people in India. The one lady by name Dr. What's her name? Dr. Manpreet Sethi. Manpreet Sethi, she's an expert in nuclear weapon and research into that area she had done, and she works for the government of India in the area of defense. And she had also presented some paper, which I can post it later, where she had brought out the concern and the threat for India from Pakistan and China, who are on both sides of India, where both are nuclear armed states, where China is supporting Pakistan, and there's a lot of kind of accumulation of nuclear weapons, and there's a lot of further modernizing and increasing of the nuclear power with them due to the heavy threat from the neighboring countries, China and Pakistan. There's a lot of difficulty for India. Let me tell you, Meta, the students, the children are more aware of the things better than the elders in India. Really, surprisingly, I'm going to the schools, and when I talk.
Excuse me, what age groups are you speaking to? High school kids?
Yeah, high school, up to the age of from 12 years to 17 years. 12 to 17 year kids, and they're well informed and they have good information. I'm sure that they're going to work along with us to see that the change happens.
Well, that's wonderful.
If you're interested, the coalition that I belong to is called the Physicists Coalition for Nuclear Threat Reduction. And they have physicists who have done all kinds of simulations on what a nuclear conflagration would involve, and how many people would be affected, and what infrastructures would be affected, etc. So it's a very professional group.
I want to encourage you to share that. If you will go to our website, which is called tosavetheworld.ca, we have many different comment columns And I would love for you to put information from your organization, post it as a comment on the threat called war and weapons, because we do have a place for people to discuss. I want to say this to everybody. Besides attending these monthly global town halls, I want to invite all of you to go to our website and share whatever ideas you have or information you have that will be useful to people, and put it up there as a comment. It's completely free, and the website has been created exactly for the purpose of enabling conversations like this to take place among activists around the world who are working on any of these main global threats to human survival, war and weapons being the one that, I started with. Barbara Burkett is also involved with that, and Adam Wynn. Both of you are very helpful in promoting this website. So please use it and put your comments there and share them. And you can even attach photos or things of that kind. Would you be so good as to go there, Mort? And
sure. I'll look it up. So it's tosavetheworld.com. Is that what it is?
.ca.
Oh,
.ca. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
We had a very interesting discussion today amongst friends in Montreal of the residential school death toll and what that means for us. I think a lot of people agreed that what it means for us is we shouldn't be focusing on what we feel about it as settlers, but that we should be listening carefully and respectfully. There's a huge wave of anger amongst young Aboriginal people. I think what people really need to know about the current issue is that the discovery of at least 2,000 unmarked graves of children who died in these schools, which were really like concentration camps for Indian kids and lasted for over 100 years.
Children were taken from their parents by force and incarcerated in these schools.
The Truth and Reconciliation Commission heard a lot of people saying that they remembered other children at the schools they attended. Some of them had even buried fellow students. And yes, of course, there are a lot of different reasons for death. But the point is, if you put people in intolerable situations at that age, you're including tuberculosis, including sexual and other kinds of abuse.
The United States had what they called industrial schools, which would be the equivalent to our residential schools. And actually, the McDonald administration sent a man by the name of Nicholas Flood Davin to the United States in, I'm just double checking what year this was. This was 1879, and basically told him to examine how the United States operated their industrial school system. He went around to some of the Western states, Midwest states, and then also Pennsylvania, and drafted a list of recommendations for the Canadian situation. So this one-man commission that lasted about 45 days was used as a model in the late 1870s to drastically expand and drastically overhaul the residential school system. So here in Canada, we did have various forms of residential schools, even dating back to the 17th century, the 1600s. They didn't really become as formalized isn't the word, but as widespread and as institutionalized with the government and religious operations until the 19th century. And then the McDonald administration really expanded them. But the Canadian residential schools, specifically those after 1879, were modeled after the system used in the United States. And that system did strongly encourage the separation of children from their families to encourage assimilation. So there is a lot of overlap with the systems. One of the most notorious schools in the United States was the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, which was in Pennsylvania. So there is a lot of overlap between the two systems, for sure.
Was there any oversight or any kind of regulation? Was there anything supervising the quality of the treatment that people were given either in Canada or the US. And I wonder if there's any basis for making a comparison and saying whether the US system was better or worse than the Canadian situation.
Dr. Peter Bryce, I believe in 1910, was the medical officer who looked in person at a lot of these schools, reported to the government that there was appalling loss of life due as much to neglect as to deliberate attempts to kill children. But nonetheless, it was reported to the government in full detail, and the government just turned a blind eye. They didn't want to know. I think there are probably similar things in the US, and maybe Adam can tell about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so familiar with the United States context in regards to their in that type of response. I'm sure there would be an equivalent to it. I know that the indigenous communities did have opposition to it quite early on. And another element is that there may have been social welfare organizations aware of the situations that may have become involved with them.
The Indian languages, for example, were they wanted to get rid of. And there's an effort by some of the tribes, at least, to reintroduce the native languages, which have been lost. And of course, there was a lot of intermarriage between these kids who were brought up in these other schools with the Caucasian element. And that perhaps ameliorated some things, but it certainly didn't. It was still the same kind of despicable situation which you are talking about in Canada. I don't have details.
Mm-hmm.
If I may add a point, Australia also had similar schools in the lost and stolen generation in Australia. And I'm sure a number of other British colonies also did, and perhaps even non-British colonies that were also under colonial European control.
I'm thinking back. My mother is part Choctaw Indian. And she was in high school, went through a high school that was for Indian girls. She did not remark upon it as anything except a privilege. And I have been in the building, which is now the headquarters of the Choctaw Nation. My brother and I made a trip there about 3 or 4 years ago and just looked around. And that high school building is now the headquarters of the Indian Nation. It's very well kept up. It's very attractive, old building, but it's a nice one. And in no sense would it have even occurred to me to think that what my mother went through was like a residential school in Canada. I don't think so. I think she regarded it as quite a privilege to be able to go there. But there's no way to check anymore. She's gone, my mother's dead. And I bet there's nobody really who could very well inform us about whether there were schools that were really good schools that that offset this terrible image now that we have of the schools where Indian children were incarcerated. I in no sense was she incarcerated. She was, treated very well, as far as I know.
Was it a day school or a boarding school where they stayed there 24/7?
It has to have been a boarding school because her parents were tenant farmers. The connection, I never even made the connection between her situation and what we are now calling residential schools in Canada, which were so appalling. Is there anything comparable among the Indigenous people in India? I don't, I've heard of tribal groups and things like that, which presumably they still retain their culture. And I believe they're given reserved seats in the parliament, Lok Sabha. Is that not the case, Chand?
Yeah, yes. In India, one of the main problem is that still we have a reservation system called as the scheduled tribe and scheduled caste, who are the tribal people who are given reservation in the parliament, in the jobs, government jobs, in the schools, everywhere. This reservation system actually is started by our father of constitution, created by B.R. Ambedkar in 1947 when we got independence from British. That time they have started this reservation for 5 years to see that those downtrodden people can be brought up with the other people who are forward, who are more forward in their lives. So it had started for 5 years, but it continued. Even today, it's being continued only for the reason of getting the votes in the politics. Politicians are just taking it forward by giving reservation. Thereby, it is having lot of negative effect for the development of the nation. Once I receive a reservation, thereby I am given some privileges, thereby I am being uplifted from wherever I am there, I am uplifted. Again, that reservation goes for my next generation, where my next generation already has been uplifted and they are very well off. But still the reservation is being taken by these people, thereby first thing is that most of the people who go with reservation, for example, if you are supposed to have, let's say 70% minimum to get into medicine, if you want to study medicine, a person who gets even 35% will be admitted with the reservation into medicine. And if he is going to be a poor in quality of his medical knowledge, he is going to affect the society. Similarly, engineer.
But we're coming to the end of our chat today.
To save the world.
To savetheworld.ca, and you'll find that there's not only a place for conversations and discussions and people to debate issues and reply to each other and post things that you've read or share things that you'd like to other people to see, and there's an events column where you're able to, and I heartily encourage you, if you have an event coming up, even if it's a virtual event like your Hiroshima Day event, post it there and then go look at what else is going on. So you might want to attend somebody else's events. The next monthly town hall meeting is going to be on my 90th birthday. And so we're going to have a birthday party. Somebody is going to bring me a chocolate cake with a birthday candle on it, which I will blow out and share with as many of you as I can, which will probably just be Adam. And so you can always bring a piece of cake or a cookie to the computer when you check in next time. And I want to ask you each for a birthday present. Here's what I want for my birthday presents from everybody. I want you to go to the talk show, or rather the website, to savetheworld.ca, and post a comment or comment on somebody else's post and share your ideas, because that's what I created this thing for. And it's my greatest pleasure to be able to turn 90, having created something that I think will be useful to activists all around the world who are, doing things either against nuclear weapons or against global warming, or to prevent famines, or to prevent pandemics, or to prevent the misuse of cyberspace for risky and dangerous things. So we want to share ideas there on the website. And if you'll do that, it'll be the best possible birthday present that I could get. Okay?
Fine. Yes, sure, definitely. It's our pleasure.
Perfect. So I'll see you all, or some of you anyway, next month on the 29th of August, which is my birthday, and we'll have a good celebration together. Thank you for all.
Thank you very much.
For
Thank you. Adios.
All right.